So I'm curious. I practice Qigong quite regularly, a few minutes here and there throughout the day, very relaxing. And in that Chinese philosophy, it talks about how trauma or pain is stored in the body in certain organs, like fear in the liver. Don't quote me on the exact organ, but something like that. So I'd love to hear you kind of talk about that if you could, and what you feel, that how you feel the principles connect to that kind of philosophy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is such a great question. And thank you for telling me that it's in that tradition, because I've always believed it came from Freudian understanding. So I would imagine Qigong, or however you say it, is probably around longer than Freud. But I actually don't believe that. And when it's like it's a Pandora's box to start talking about it, because like when I've heard people say, like you said, like some things are, are in different, parts of the body. I mean, I'm being a bit sarcastic now, but I would say to them, like, well, what do you mean? My resentment at my mother is in my kneecap, or my fear of like, heights is in my stomach? Like, what do you mean it's held in the body? Right? So, I'd be a bit, play devil's advocate and ask them, what do you mean? Where is it in my body? Is it in my pancreas? Is it in my lungs? Oh, is that why I have asthma? That kind of thing. And so when I would ask people that question, they would say, no, it doesn't mean that the resentment at your mother is in your adrenal glands. It means that when you that's the feeling is in your body when you remember that traumatic event, or you can feel that sensation. So then I would say to them, like, well, how would you know you're having a sensation? And they would say, well, because you can feel it. And I'd say, how do you know you're feeling it? And eventually, with enough questions, I could get them back to the idea that it's actually thought. Because, in fact, this is how I kind of came to understand pain. Pain in itself has no substance. It's an incredibly mystical thing, actually, pain. And so I remember right back at the beginning of my journey into this understanding, I had a meeting with a three principles teacher called Dr. Mark Howard, a lovely, incredible, generous gentleman. And I remember saying to him, I said, I get it's my thinking, but, because we all have a but at the beginning, right? I said, I get it's my thinking, but what about hormones? Like, get out of that one. Right? And he went, He said, no, it's still your thinking. I was like, really? He said, yeah. How would you know your temperature just went up and down unless you had a thought about it? How would you know you feel a sensation in your gut that you're scared to do a presentation, or you're scared of, dogs or something, unless it registered as a thought? So an example I would give of that is, like, let's take hunger. Hunger is a sensation in the body, right? So let's say it's lunchtime, and you're about to think, like, what should I have for lunch? Should I have a sandwich? Should I have a pizza? And let's say you're babysitting, and the 6-year-old kid that you're looking after, and you're about to make you both lunch, falls and breaks his arm, right? And you're like, oh my gosh. And you're like rushing off to the emergency room. You're calling his parents, you're waiting for the doctor to show up. They're getting x-rays done, and now you're waiting for the cast to be put on. And now it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and you guys didn't eat lunch. Well, your stomach is still empty, right? In fact, it got emptier, but you didn't have the sensation anymore because you were distracted by the emergency, by taking care of the kid. So either it's in my consciousness or it's not. And pain, we only experience pain when it comes into consciousness. So I could have memories about my trauma, and in that moment when I think about it, it may feel like it's, in my body, but I would only know that because I'm having a thought about it. Does that kind of help or make sense?
Not only does it make sense, Hannah, you've articulated my philosophy much more eloquently than I could, because we're singing from the same hymn book here. I subscribe to your school of thought exactly. So I wanted to hear your opinion about it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's a great question.